Hello everyone and welcome to Craft Club episode 2. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be learning how to make a dice bag, a crochet dice bag to be precise. I will be going through how to make a lining for that bag that you could use as just a dice bag on its own if you don't fancy crocheting, but the crochet part is really fun, so I would recommend it. So things you'll need for this little project doesn't have to be exactly this, but this is what I used. A 4mm crochet needle, 50 grams wool, cotton or non-stretch fabric that is the size of at least 34 by 32 centimeters, and then enough for two 9.5 times 9.5 squares. A regular sewing needle and some threads, preferably the same colour as your fabric so that it can blend in, and ribbon or lace or whatever you want to tie up your dice bag with. So to start off, you'll want to take that non-stretch fabric and cut two pieces of the fabric 17 by 32 centimeters. And then you'll want to cut two circles out that are roughly 9.5 centimeters in diameter. It would be easier if you found like a coaster or a cup or something that's roughly that size so you can draw around it. Otherwise it's pretty hard to get an even circle. So once you've cut all of that out, take the two circles with the pattern side facing in on each other, lie them on top of each other with the patterns facing inwards, and pin them together like that. Do the same thing for the two 17 by 32 rectangles, fabric pattern facing in, because what we're going to do next is we're going to sew all the way around the edges, leaving a little gap at the end to turn it in on itself. So that way you won't see any of the stitching when it's the right way around, and you'll have the pattern fabric facing outwards. So here you can see that I am using my sewing machine. As you sew, just take the pins out because you don't want to really sew over them. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can do this by hand. It won't take too long. Just a simple back and forth stitch will do. Anything really, because we're going to be turning it inside out and then you won't be able to see the stitches anyway. So just sew all the way around the edges of the rectangle and all the way around the edge of the circles that are facing each other, but just leave a little space at the end so that we can turn them the right way round, and then we'll hand sew that last bit if you were doing that bit by machine. We're just going to fold that last bit in there and use what I call a Henson stitch, which I learnt from making puppets. It's the kind of stitch that is supposed to be invisible basically. So you start from the inside of the fabric, take your needle through, you got a little loop on the end there, then we'll go back in and we'll put the needle through the loop just to tighten it so that it won't come loose. Then we'll come back out again. Once you're out here, you basically go in the other side and out, and then back to this side and out, in the other side and out, back to the other side and out. It'll look like a little zigzag. When you pull it tight, it should pull the fabric in on itself and hopefully not be visible. So you want to do that for both the circle and the square, and just tie it off at the end and poke the little tail back in so that it's not showing. Next, what you want to do is take the circle and the rectangle, lay the circle on the edge of the rectangle, but with about a 2 centimeter space on the end there. What we'll be doing is sewing the bottom of the circle to the bottom of the rectangle, and when the circle starts to turn, you just pull it back to the edge there like I'm doing here. Sew it a little bit more, turn the circle so that it keeps running along the side of the rectangle, and you just sew that all the way around until it joins up to the other side. Then here what we do is we'll do one more straight stitch just to join up the whole of the bag. You might have, like what I've got here, quite a bit of excess fabric. That's fine. That's just there just as an emergency, basically, just to make sure that we have enough fabric. So we'll start at the bottom where the circle is attached to the rectangle. Basically just press the fabric together like I'm doing here, and then just do one straight stitch right from the bottom to the top. And that's basically it. You can do what I did and fold that excess bit of fabric onto the side of the bag and then do one more straight stitch like we just did, but on the edge, just to hold it down. But you won't need to worry about that too much. You don't need to do that because the crochet bit of the bag is going to be hiding it anyway. But if you are just using the lining bit, then I would recommend sewing that excess bit down because it looks a little bit neater. So first off, I decided to use 2 colours. You can use one colour if you want, and when it gets to the point where I'm changing colours, you can just ignore that bit and carry on. So make a loop by crossing the thread on itself and pulling it through the little loop like I'm doing here. Just crossing it and then grabbing the next bit there and just pulling it through and then tightening it like that. There we go. And then just pop it on the hook. Hold the little tail that you've got there, and then with the other side that's attached, you go around it once and then you pull the first loop you made off. So around and then pull the loop off like I'm doing there. You do this 6 times, so you've got 6 loops on a chain. So once you've got 6 loops in your chain, you want to put the head of your hook through the first loop. So here you can see I pull it apart a little bit to make it a bit easier to get into. There we go. So it's a bit easier. Still, you see I'm struggling here to get the hook through. So through the first loop in the chain, and then you want to go around again like we did before, but this time we're putting the hook through that ring, around again once you get into the ring, and then you pull it out again. So let's show that again. We go around the crochet hook, into the loop, around again and pull that out, and you've got 3 loops. Now around one more time and then pull all 3 of those loops off, keeping just that last one on. So it's around the hook, into the ring, around again, and then pull back out of the ring, and then you'll have 3 hoops on your hook. You make one more round and then pull all 3 of those hooks off, leaving just that last one. So you'll keep doing this in out hoop pattern until you get all the way around, and then you'll do that one more time to join up the whole circle by putting your hook into that very first loop, going around once and then pulling both of those previous loops off so that you've just got the one, and then you can pull it tight, and if you're changing colours here, you can now just cut that short because you've just pulled it tight into a knot. Right, we're going to be basically doing the exact same thing again here. You've got 1 loop on through that first hole that we just created. You make a loop with your new colour or with your same colour if you're not changing colours. You go around and you pull it out. That is a chaining 1 loop. We'll chain 2 loops. So 2 loops, and then you go into that first hole there on the edge of your circle, and we're basically doing the exact same pattern that we did before, but we're now going into a smaller loop rather than the center of the ring. So you go in 1, around 1, back out, and you've got 3 on your hook again. You just do 1 more round, and then you pull all 3 of those hooks off again. So 3 there, around, out, like that. Around, into the next hole, around, out. You've got 3, around, pull all 3 of those off, so you've got 1 left. Now, to make sure that this stays flat rather than curling up when you start going around the circle, every 5 loops that you do, every 5 half double crochets as they call these, you'll want to do a second one in that same loop that you just went into. So you don't want to move on to the next hoop, you'll want to stay in that first hoop you did. So do 4 half double crochets, and then in the 5th loop do 2 into that 1 loop, and then carry on again, do 4, and then the 5th one go in, just to make sure that it stays flat. And then when you get to the end like this again, you can find that first loop again, put your hook through it, 1 round, pull both of those loops off, and there you go, you've got your second bit of circle there. Nice and flat because we've done those increases. That's what they're called, by the way, when we did those increases there. They were half double crochet increases. And then you can pull the loop out like that, pull it tight, and cut it off just like that. Now you'll want to do that 2 more times to make it wide enough for the bottom of your dice bag. As it gets wider, you can do less increases. So for the 3rd round you can do 7 double crochets and then an increase. So the 8th one you would do 2 into it. And then for the next one after that, you can do a little bit less. So you can do sort of every 10, you can do an increase. If it looks like it's starting to curl up, then just add an extra increase in. And there we have it, you've got your 4 rounds there, and now it's wide enough to be the bottom, and so we'll move on to the next step. So this next bit is very similar to what we just did, but we're not going to be doing any increases now, because we're going up instead of continuing the circle outwards. So we'll start where we last tied off the last bit. We'll put the crochet hook in, make a new loop, and then you'll chain 3 like I've just done here, and then we'll go into the next hole like we were before when we were creating the circle. Loop again, pull that back out, you've got 3 again on there, loop again and pull all 3 off just like that. So that's a half double crochet. If I'm not explaining this completely perfectly, I definitely recommend looking up half double crochet on YouTube. You'll be able to see it in a much slower way, and you basically do that all the way around. Remember, we're not increasing now, so just every loop you've got on the edge of that circle you'll do a half double crochet into until you get all the way around to the other side. Once you get to the other side, you'll take that first hoop that we made there, so count 3 up, there we go, to that hole, and then we'll pop the hook through that hole, go around the hook once again, and then pull those other 2 hooks up over it, so you've just got the one again, and that joins up that row. There we go. Then usually what I do here is I will chain 2 again, and then I'll start the next row. So exactly as we did before, we're just going all the way around, half double crocheting and not increasing because we just want it to stay the same width now. And that is basically it. You just keep going around. What I did here was I did 4 rounds of half double crochet, and then I changed the color like we did before, where you just make a loop, tighten it, snip it off, and then get your new color, make a loop on that one, and then carry on exactly as we did with that, making a little chain and half double crocheting all the way around. For this I did 4 rounds in pink, and then 1 round in the light blue color, and then 4 rounds in pink, light blue color again, 4 rounds in pink, and then when I got to the end of the 3rd section of 4 rounds of pink, I did 3 rounds of blue at the top, just to reach the top of our lining so that they were the same height. Now here I'm just demonstrating how to get rid of those end bits where we've cut them off, just to make it nice and neat. So if you are changing colours, this is something you'll have to do. If you're not, then you'll only have one at the start and finish. Or if you run out of wool and have to change it at all, go out from the inside, get your hook, wrap the little tail around it and just pull it through. Just so that it's on the inside and it's nice and hidden, and then the outside looks nice and neat. So out from the inside, pull it back through, and then it looks nice and neat. There we go. Yeah, so after this I did one more set of 4 pink, and then 3 rounds of blue, and then it was tall enough to fit the lining in and be the same height. So go ahead and do that. So we're half double crocheting all the way around, and then when you get to the end you join up the round, do 2 chains and carry on the next round. There we go. So when you get to the correct height that you want it to be and your lining sits inside it really nicely, it doesn't pop out too much at the top, then you should be ready to do the next step. So it might alter a little bit from what mine is, depending on your size of wool that you've chosen and the size of your hook. So if you need to do a couple more rounds just to get to the top, just so that it's all the same height, then that's absolutely fine. So here we're going to be putting the ribbon or the laces or whatever you want to use to tie up the dice bag. Basically start from where your seam is, so where each of your rounds started, just because that's kind of a good marker of where to start. Take your lace and you put it through one hole at the start there. Count 4 loops and then pull it back out again. So in 4 loops, out 4 loops, all the way around. There's nothing technical about this, literally just pulling it in and out through the loops, just like I'm doing here. Very easy, you don't need a tool, just poke it through the holes. So in 4, out 4, and then when you reach the end, it should look pretty cute, like this. There you go, and then you can just pull both of the strings, there we are, and it tightens up the bag, and then you can go around it and tie it in a little bow. I chose ribbon for this one because I just thought it looked super cute with ribbon on. Looks really cute and just awesome. The other ones behind it I used laces because I thought that it went a bit better with the colour, and it's just an example of like the other things you can use to tie up your bag. So one more thing that I would like to add is that I sewed at the top of the dice bag just to attach the lining and the crochet dice bag together, right at the top of the seam. Just an in, out and back on itself, just a regular sewing stitch, just to stop the lining from falling out. Really simple, nothing technical about that, just stitching it together. Try and use the same colour fabric as the dice bag and the lining, just so that it doesn't show up too much. But again, you don't have to do this, it's just something that I did to make it a bit more stable. But yeah, that's all done. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this. I really enjoyed making this and I can't wait to make more. Once again, I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you soon. Bye!